go ahead and get started right away so don't waste any more time. I'm going to put you down here to my desk view. And come on in and say hello. I've got, I see more people than have said anything over in the chat. This is what we're going to work on today. It's this little design here. And you can actually get this in my shop, and it's a whole little kit. The image is already on the canvas, so you don't even have to, work hard to get your image on. It's already on there. It comes with everything you need except, I think, water, and seems like there's one other thing. You need a cup for your or something for your water container. And other than that, it's got about everything you need. Now, I'm going to use this bigger plate today. Sometimes I take, this is just one of those disposable plastic plates, and sometimes I take these and just cover it with a little bit of press and seal, and then I can, when all of that is dried up and I don't like it anymore, or I can't tell what's going on with dried paint, then I just, peel this off and throw it away. But this little kit actually comes in this recessed part in the back. It has a little rectangular tray that you can use to mix your paints on. So like I said, it comes with everything. Now let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to paint this background kind of a gray color. I'm going to try to keep what I'm doing out of the way of my head there, you guys. And it comes with, these are the little brushes that it comes with, 3 little brushes. It's got this one that's kind of, and you don't need very big brushes when you are painting this size. This is an 8 by 10 size. And we like to call it the fun size, like the little fun size candy bars. So it's the fun size. And so then you just have 3 brushes. So you've got, this is your larger brush, your medium brush, and your little small brush. So that's all that we need for this. And we're going to get started. I'm going to put some white down here. And the little packets of paint, just snip off the paint. You can see they have little indentations like where you would, we always think we just tear straight across there. I would urge you not to do that because, then you can fold this over and save any paint that you might have left. And I'm just going to put, it seems like I always use more white than anything else. And we're going to start with white. We're going to paint the background black. And so I'm going to put a little bit of black over here. We've got another couple of places to use it. A little bit of black goes a long way, my friends. I'm going to get out a little white. I've already got paint on myself. So, and I'm also going to roll up my sleeves. You guys, I'm messy. I am a messy crafter. I'm a messy painter. That's just the way it goes. So, yeah, anybody that is here, be sure and come on and say hello. So, we're going to start. We're going to use this. We're going to just take a little bit with our small brush. We're going to dip it in just a little bit of the black, and we're going to pull it on to the side and make a gray color over here. And I'm actually going to need, quite a bit, but we're just going to have this soft gray. If you had gray paint, you could, do that. I don't really even care if it's all the way mixed up because that's going to give us a little bit more interest in our painting. So I know that's not going to be enough. Let's mix up a little bit more. And the variety of grays that are in your little spot right here, they'll be fine. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to kind of do like little X's or whatever. I'm just going to take this and slide it around the edge of my balloons here. These are like heart balloons. I'm going to, since we aren't even to February yet, I'm going to make these to where they're kind of a Valentine color. But don't think of this necessarily as just a painting for Valentine's Day, because my goodness, all you'd have to do is change up the colors that you're using, and it could be anything. Whoever you're giving it to, maybe they have a favorite color, and you can certainly use their favorite colors on that. And we're just going to go to town here. I have not mixed up nearly enough paint, and that's okay. We've got plenty we can work from, and then just add some more. And like I said, I don't even care. I'm trying to not have it just be flat looking. And you know, some people use more paint, some people use less. And whatever you do, however you work your paint, that's just kind of your style. That's your technique. You know, I tend to not use a ton. And I can tell you, even like when painting at the house, my husband uses a ton of paint. In fact, I always laugh. And one time he was gone out of town and I painted our bedroom, and I used 1 can of paint. And of course, we had a lot of windows and doors, but I only used 1 gallon of that paint, and he could not believe it. I just laughed. I said, no, you would not be able to do it. Now, what I like to do is, as I'm doing this, I just pull it around here, because then the colors I'm using here are going to, you know, match what I'm doing as I go around. Or, you know, similar. I put a little more white in that one. I'm just going to go around. And then you can see I got a big blob here, so I'm just going to pull that back in here. And then as you work from the top, you know, be sure to kind of pull it towards you so you can see. And you know what? The nice thing about these little any size canvas, you can hang them. You don't even have to have a frame. So that's kind of a nice thing about doing something on canvas. You just don't even have to have a frame. I'm going to kind of keep going back so that I don't have such a different color from one side to the other, I think. And when they are small like this, you can just turn them as you go, right? Just turn and work as you go along. And that's even like an 11 by 14, you can kind of do that as well. I don't really want a real harsh line along here. Oh my goodness, there's my phone. I forgot to do anything with it. I hope nobody starts calling me. But kind of, you know, swish those back and forth so you don't get a hard line across there. And I'm going to try and keep up with any comments. Oh, thanks. Thank you. It is kind of cute, isn't it? It's a sweet little image. And you know what? You don't even, you know it's a person, and you don't even have to do a face or anything. So you don't have to be intimidated by, you know, thinking, oh, I could never draw a person. Well, you know, you don't have any hands to draw on here. You have no face. And go out and kind of, and you know, if you need to go back and kind of smooth something around, you can do that. Now we're going to paint the balloons, and we'll be able to kind of work that in and cover up anything like that. So just working my way around. Now one little place that I did notice that I don't know, I was just looking at it and I thought, I think this one little place needs a tiny bit of gray, and I hadn't even noticed it before. And so I'm going to use like a smaller brush here, and that's this, ew, I just put my hand in it. This little spot right here where these balloons come together, you might want to just kind of tuck a little bit of gray in there. I didn't do a very good job, but I did want to do it before I forgot. And just keep swiping that paint on. I know Jeannie paints all the time. Jeannie's palette, she's going to be on here today. So like I said, this is just fun painting. Don't be intimidated by, you know, that you don't paint usually or whatever. Just have fun with it. It's always kind of fun to do something different. So I'm going to try and turn this again. And one thing about it, when you've got one of these, you can kind of stick your hand underneath. So you still have a place to hang on. Okay, and then get this last little place right here. I hope you guys can see pretty well. I hope I'm holding it to where you can see it. That's always, when you're working flat and looking at it, you always have to wonder. And then you can, you know, take another look, see if there's places you want to, and you know, it's okay for it to have more light in some places, more dark. In fact, I kind of wish that this had a little bit more variation in some of these places. But we'll go with this. If I spend too much time on it, I'm never going to get done. Oh, you guys, I wish my fan was on. Okay. So now that, oh, and here's another little spot of gray right here between her legs, right here, the bottom of her coat, her jacket, whatever you want to call it. Let's fill that in a little bit with some gray. Okay. Okay, now then I am going to come over here and I'm going to add a little bit more of the black into my gray. I want a darker gray. I still want it gray, but I don't want it all the way black because her pants are black and we want to be able to see the difference in her pants, right? And so now, okay, so see, you can see the difference, and I'm just going to run it along here, kind of at the base, kind of wiggle it around her little boots. They're not just straight, and then just, you know, go back and forth here. And it doesn't have to be just, I might need a little bit. Get in here with my smaller brush. Whoops. And just kind of wiggle. You don't want that too straight because she's got like kind of these furry tops on her boots, and they're kind of those squishy boots sometimes that we see. Okay, I think that'll do it. And just finish out here. All right, and then pull it along here. And then what you want to do is, like, as you know, make these little wiggly lines across here, then, you know, if you're close up and you can see those lines, pull back so you've got, you know, some, your paint is, you know, because you can still see the lines of, you know, the directions that you go. You're going to see that in your paintings. And, you know, I've run out of my darkest color, and that's okay. We'll just finish up across here. I still need to get over to the edges and just kind of, you know, do some long strokes like this. Turn it up and get the edges. And the edges, it doesn't matter if your edges match exactly, because you might have to add a little bit, you know, more color or something. You just want to make sure that as you go back, you know, make sure that on the edge from the front that you blend it. So once you get it all blended, you know, you've got it. Now, one thing about this is, you know, we're doing a video. And so when you've got a video, you can come back for the directions, and you can stop a video at any time and see what's going on. Oh, I'm sorry, I've got this up here in my head. I try to keep things away from my picture of myself up there because it looks kind of what it doesn't look the best. Hi there, Mary from the Painted Peach. She's going to be on later today. And all of those presenters' links to their YouTube channels are there in my description. So I hope you'll go check everybody out. You know, sometimes we can't watch everybody all at once, and, you know, it's video. You can go back and see it. Now this has got this, I don't know, I've got a place here that's not covered up. There we go. Okay, and now I'm going to take a little bit more black and kind of mix it in here. I still have paint on my brush. I haven't done anything like that. And I'm just going to kind of go across here for kind of a little base and some like shadow. And she's got this big bouquet of balloons, and oh, I just got that on her foot. And so it would be, you know, she could have a fairly wide little shadow here. And I did get that on the boot. That's okay. It'll be fine. Okay, so now we've got that going on. And while we still have some of this, I'm going to make it a little gray again. I'm going to add a little bit more white so it's not quite so dark. And we're going to jump up here to the coat. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to add some places. It's going to be kind of like some shadowing. And we're just going to kind of rub it on here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Kind of along the edges. Up here a little bit, it would be kind of there, kind of our edges. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, and my brush is getting kind of dry now. Just some interest. Maybe there's a little fold in her coat here. And then I do have a little spot down here in the back. And since this is going to be back in this back part of the coat, that's going to be a little bit darker. Okay, now we're going to get going with our red. We're going to put our red right over the top of that. And if you can do it kind of quick, that is going to kind of show some of those, it's going to make it look shaded. So I'm just going to wipe that out. I'm not putting it in water. And I'm going to go straight into the red here. And then just start getting that on here. And then after you get this on your red, then you can go back and then make longer strokes so that you've got the length of the coat kind of one kind of longer lines. I have to pull this out a little bit. And it doesn't have to be super straight, but it's just going to give a little bit of shading there. I'm probably going to have to come back in with but just, make these longer. Let's get over here. I think I'm going to have to change to this smaller brush. Kind of having some trouble. Hi, Jeannie. There's Jeannie with Clifton's Crafty Casa, and we've got Wendy here from, I'm going to say it better this time, Simply Bewitching Crafts by Wendy. I did it. Oh, you're fine. My goodness. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to pull it up here. And then if it looks like, and the red is kind of, sometimes some of these colors are kind of a little translucent, and just, you can just put another coat on, right? I'm trying to see. I think the edge of this coat looks like it goes over a little farther than I put it. I'm going to kind of try to be neater along that flower. And just do longer strokes to kind of blend all of that together. And then let's do this little part in here between her legs. And it's got kind of, it's not exactly straight between her pants. She has kind of some little bumps in her leggings or whatever, little wrinkles. Those would be little wrinkles. There. And then just come back. You know, you can always just add a little paint here and there. Okay. All right, I think that's going to do it for that. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's paint her pants. And like I said, you know, you don't always have to get your brush wet. I do that sometimes, and then I'm really sorry because then I've got too much water in it. Too water. Oh my goodness. Wendy, when you get ready to do something like that and all of a sudden your computer wants to update, I know. It's like I never said I wanted to do that, right? It's just crazy. Okay, now you can see these little lines here. She's got like a little fly and a little pocket. And I'm going to try to kind of stay away from one of those lines and leave a little bit of white so that I know where that is. And I can come back to that. I'm going to have to use my other, you know, or just a little bit so you know where it is. And then just a little, like I said, they don't have to be straight. It's like wrinkled cloth. I'm going to use a tiny brush to get down in there. That's why I was saying these little small brushes, these are plenty big for, you know, working on a canvas this size. And I love, you can see how many times I've turned it upside down and around, and I'm always doing that. I just think it's easy. I would rather paint like that than on an easel. That's just me. I like to turn it all around. Even when I have done like a bigger size, like, I think a 16 by 20 is another size that I've worked on often. And, you know, I'll do that. I'll even turn them upside down. Okay. I'm just hoping I can get done with this in my hour, you guys. Okay, let's get our tiny brush. And one of the things, like, to get your some of these little liner brushes loaded, if you'll take them in the paint and like just roll them and kind of drag them out, then you've got a lot of paint right on that point. And it'll hold that paint in there, and then it makes it easy to have enough. And if you're trying to use a liner brush like that to do some lining, if you kind of make your paint, you can add a tiny bit. Oh, I didn't leave my pocket. I got right in the way. Oh well, we'll remember. You add a tiny bit of water and make it kind of inky. And that way, if it's kind of inky, then, you know, it drags real easy. Okay, now I am going to rinse that out. But see how putting that gray underneath kind of gave us some shadows, and we didn't really even have to work much on that. I don't know. I almost wish that was a little bit darker. Okay, I am going to kind of clean these out because we're going to work with some more white. We're going to make some colors here for the fur on the boots, and we'll do the boots. So we're going to use a little bit of yellow and brown to make kind of a more golden color. And if you do wash out your brush, really be sure and, you know, dry it out good so it's not real. Oh my goodness, look what I just did. I'm not gonna worry about it, we can fix that later. And so I'm just gonna put a little bit of yellow and some brown. That looks like I've had that paint sitting there a while and it's kind of starting to separate. Let me mix it up. It's just like, you know, if you have paint in a bottle and you need to shake it all up, right? So that's how that goes. All right, now I'm going to take this little tiny brush again, and we're just going to move some yellow out here. We're just going to tap some brown in here. So it's kind of this more gold. Oh, that's kind of too brown. And I'm going to pull it out into a little bit of white. Because I don't want it to be white. I mean, it could be a cream color, you guys. It's kind of what we're going for, but you know, you can make a lot of these colors just by having, you know, some basic colors, right? Let me see how I do with this size brush. Maybe we'll kind of lay it down first. That's pretty yellow, but that's okay. And then it's not, you know, real straight. In her little squishy boots. She's got squishy furry boots. Maybe if I turn it this way I can get that other edge. I gotta be careful though. I can see that some of that black paint is really wet. There we go. And so now let's just go ahead and let's add some more brown and see what kind of a color we can get for the boots. Kind of a cool soft leather color. And you guys, every time you do something like this, it's, oh, that really looks yellow in the in the monitor. But every time you do this, I could use a little more white. Every time you do this, it could look different. It really could. So now I'm just gonna, this time I'm gonna try to be smart. I'm gonna work on, since I'm right-handed, I'm gonna work over here on the left boot first and then come over to the other side. And you can see, you know, it's just, we're just gonna make this little shape of the boot first, and then we're gonna go back and add some other, we'll add some things to make it look more like a little boot or squishy or whatever. She looks like she's standing really crooked. You know, some of these are kind of slouchy. Let's make this a little bit, let's pull that out so it's not so straight. Those little really soft leather. I don't know if those are suede. I guess they could be. Suede is real soft like that. You guys, I had a uncle who lived in Alaska for a long time, and when my brother was born, they sent down a pair of mucklucks for him to wear. You know what those are? They're just a soft like suede and have like the little furry they're lined inside. And you know, have little furry tops. And my brother started having all of these, I mean, we didn't even realize what it was until, I don't know how long it took before we realized what was going on. We finally realized that he was allergic to the fur on the boots. It was rabbit fur they'd used. We finally found out that that was what it was. Okay, so, she just got funny little boots on. They don't have to match. They don't have to be perfect. Okay, so while those are, let's put a little bit of, I'm going to darken this, the little bit of darker brown, and just blend it in there so it's not, just a real stark contrast, but we've got some contrast. And I'm just going to put it around the edge, kind of like it's the sole of the boot, and pull it around a little bit here. I might need a little more brown. And just kind of line it around. And since we did it on that side, let's kind of do it on the same side over here. This would be kind of the sole. We might not be able to see it on, from all the directions. And now let's just kind of put in some squiggly marks, like it's kind of, whoops, there's not enough paint on there. Just some kind of dark lines, like we've got our little wrinkles going on. There's not enough paint on that. It would kind of probably be more at the ankles where you'd have the lines, right? I probably should put like a little line over there where the little wrinkle is. I don't know, it's starting to look like a face. I don't know, and you guys, if you ever do anything that you just don't like and you can't stand it, you know what you can do? Just wait till it dries and paint back over it, right? Like I'm thinking, like right now for this, I do not like how dark that the fur is. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and just kind of rub some of that in. And that paint is still, that's kind of hard to see it made any difference, I guess. Well, it's kind of lightening it up. But just go back with a tiny bit of, paint and fix whatever you need to. Oh my goodness, you guys, do I have red on my hands? Oh, shoot. Oh, look at what I've done. Let's see if we can't, kind of do something with that. Goodness sakes. And who knows, maybe I should have just left that. And I got way too much white. I'm going to try to brush some of this in here. Let's add a little bit of that color over here. You just never know what you're going to do, right? I'm just going to leave that other one alone, I guess. That other red smudge. Okay. Well, if I keep messing with that, I'm not going to have any, I'm for sure not going to finish. Ah, that really messed it up. I could go in there and work on that. Okay, I got the red out. Okay, moving on from the red. Oh my goodness. All right, so now let's work up here on, you know what? I wonder, actually, let me get one of these wipes. Maybe I should have tried this first. I'm gonna start taking all the paint off. I got a little bit of that red off. Let me make sure I don't have any on my hands. Okay, now then let's go ahead and let's work on the balloons. And so what we're gonna do for those is just use some red and white. And we're just gonna make some varying colors of our balloons. And I think what I want to do is I'm just gonna take some white over here and drop it here at the edge of my red. And I'll start with that one. Here's kind of a, let's actually put some more white in that one. Let's have one that's pretty light. Let's do this large one, this barely white color, or barely pink. I got some of that gray sneaking out there. And these are kind of, some of these are, they're not just totally straight, not really straight, but smooth edges. Some of them kind of had some wiggly lines. So you can do whatever you want to with those. If you want to even them out, you can. I'm gonna have to get my smaller little brush to get down in here. Okay, so we got that light pink balloon, and let's do some other ones. Let's add a little bit. These will be a little bit darker. Let's do one up here. So you just keep adding your, add a little bit more color into each one as you go, or, mix up that color as you go. So then you've got some that have a little bit more red mixed with that white. Some of them are more red as you go on. I don't think I want to do any that are all red because the coat is all red, and I think I'm going to do a bunch of red flowers. So I kind of like that color. Let's do this one over here, that same color. How are we doing on time? Who knows? We may be done by the end. That would be cool. Okay, so just varying shade, and like I said, you could paint her coat a different color. We're doing this so it still kind of, looks like it would be kind of nice to use for Valentine's Day. I've got a little bit of a small spot, so I'm back to my little liner brush to get in. Where was I painting? Oh, or this one. Let's do this little side right here. So we've got two this color. we've got this one that's kind of light. Let's make one a little bit darker. We'll just put in just a dab more red. Try to, mix up enough paint so you've got some for, the whole thing you're doing. So let's do this one a little bit darker. It's almost not dark enough. Now you could do some line work, and you know what? It just depends on how comfortable you feel. If if you don't want to do any line work around the outside, you wouldn't have to. It's just totally up to you when you're working on something like this. And again, I got to go back to my tiny paintbrush, grab this color I'm working in now, and then pull it on down here. Okay, and then let's do this one up here, that same color. And it just doesn't take very much paint at all when you're doing this. Now this almost is not, it's almost not dark enough. Let's tap in a little bit more. Trying to see where I'm going. That's another thing about as you turn your canvas, you can, better see where you're going, what you are trying to accomplish. And I just am doing the very edge of this brush. I'm going to go around that little flower there. I'm going to have to get back to my I think I messed up my little heart there. I'll do a little bit bigger heart. I'm just going to paint over that. If you lose what you were working on, look at your reference photo. There's, like in this, there's a reference photo that is with the kit. And so, then you can see if you lost something in the, in the mix. And now I need another one that's just a little bit darker. Let's make one kind of a bit darker. Doesn't need to be super dark. Just enough that we can see the difference. There we go. And you don't have to do it all because, if it's by some of the flowers, you could certainly just, cover that up and know where your flowers are, and then just make your little squiggly circles for your flowers. And that would work. This almost isn't enough contrast. I think we've got so many that are in the same palette. That's really not very red. Let me see if we can darken it up some, you guys. Let's try this. So it just has to kind of make you think that it's a heart, right? So let's get some of this on here. I like that color. I'm gonna have to come back in with my smaller brush. That is really not gonna work. But if you did some line work with some black, and you know what? You don't even have to do paint. You could actually, if you wanted to, you could use paint markers, and that would be fine. Now I got that paint kind of thick in there, so I want to kind of, you know, brush that out a little bit so it's not quite so dark. I think it's really thick right down here too. Oh my goodness, I got in the flowers. And that's fine. Okay. Hi, Susan. Oh, hi, Melanie. The magic of paint, right? Okay, so we've got, you know, like, well, actually, we've got 4 colors in there because we did that one really light. You know what? I forgot to do her shirt. Now her shirt, we're just going to do white. So just put some white in here. Okay, and let's get that tiny little brush and let's put her pocket back in. We lost her pocket. We lost her pocket. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that white, roll the tip in there, and then kind of drag it out a little bit because I don't want too much. And I'm just going to put that little pocket back in. And then to make it look like she had that little fly, we'll just kind of, just a real light stroke. I want that kind of gray though. That looks silly. Kind of gray that down a little. Well, I don't like that at all. There. I just stroked the black back over that. Okay, now, even though that is kind of wet still, I'm just going to put some little dots in here, kind of for a design. And then I'm going to draw a little line across. And it doesn't have to be real dark. I mean, it could still be this dark gray color. And then just pull a little line across here. And then do some little lines like this, like for ribbing. Like she's got a little ribbed sweater on. There, like that. See how much of a difference that makes on there? Just such a little touch of, you know, something, something. In fact, while we're at it, let's add a little bit of white detail to the coat. Let me see here. And we could just, you know, it's just going to be kind of some highlights. So, you know, just brush it on real light. And let's see. Okay, let's get started. And you can even do a little bit of that on your balloons. So, you know, maybe just a tiny bit of white. And you could brush that out a little bit so it's soft. I'm just going to have my little lines here. So that it would be, you know, ah! Well, that was a surprise. Don't know how that, I guess that was time. That color couldn't stand there any longer. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this one is just half of this balloon hiding behind there, so he can't, you know, there's no reason for him to have one on there. But, you know, if you want to kind of soften that up, you know, just kind of, you know, pull it out a little. It just, you know, depends on what you want to do. Get a tiny bit of water on there. And that was too much water. So, you know, you just play around with it. Now these are so similar in color, they really do need a little bit of, you know, line work around there. But let's do some flowers first. Our time is going to run out here. I'm going to do a little bit of green for leaves. Again, that paint has been sitting there a while. So just do that. And then, yeah, I'm just going to use my liner brush and do some of these leaves. It's very bright. I mean, you could add a little bit of you know, color into it to tone it down if you want, but I'm okay with that being bright. Let's see. I don't remember. You know, I know there was another one that I covered completely up. But you know, this is where when you do something like that, then you can put it wherever you want, right? If it's hidden away, you just put it where you want to. I kind of think it was up here. Somewhere like up here. We'll just put it there. Okay, and then for the little flowers, you just take your paint. I'm just going to take straight red. Well, I wanted one that's kind of white. Let's put this one white up here. You just kind of squiggle your brush around. Just kind of, you know, so it's not just a total circle. And let's do one white one here. And it's kind of hard to see because this is so light. And then let's do some red. Let's do a red one up here. Just kind of, you know, do a messy circle, I guess, is one way to think of it. And then I would put some yellow in the middle. And I'm going to, so I want you to, you know, go on over so that Wendy's can, you know, have people there from when she starts. And you can always come back and, you know, see how we finish this up. So, you know, it would be right about the 1 hour mark. And you can just scrub through the video and find it. Because since I'm this far, I really don't want to stop my video and make it a 2-part thing. Thing meaning video. 2-part video. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this in here. And then I'm going to put a little bit of white for like little squiggly highlights. These aren't necessarily roses, so they're just kind of squiggly flowers. And my goodness, you can't expect anything to be very realistic when it's you know, something like this, right? I need to go out of that. But yeah, it just doesn't need to be, you know what, there's another place down there that probably, I need to make this flower bigger because I've got a place there that doesn't have the background color. So like I said, you just kind of, you know, paint can fix a lot of things. Oh my gosh, I never will forget when I was in high school and my husband's mom, she was doing something with the house, and I would go, but what about like if you decide to move? And she would go, well, I'll just paint it and they'll never know. And that was her answer for everything. I'll just paint it, or a rug will cover it. They'll never know. And I used to get so tickled. It's like, okay, I guess that's one way to think of it, right? Okay, so those are little crazy looking flowers. My time is almost up. And so now what I would do is I would take a tiny bit of white on that liner brush for the red ones anyway, and just make some little squiggly marks like that. I don't want them all the same, going the same way. And there's one. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit of yellow in for the centers. This one needs a little something. And then you can see how, you know, if you had some line work around the balloons, it would look cute. Okay, there's my hour's worth. That's how much I got done for my hour, you guys. So yeah, it would really clean it up with a little bit of line work. But there you go. So like I said, you know, it's just a fun painting. And who knows, I might even try just using it to finish it up quick. I might even just use a marker around the edges. Who knows? But I think I'm going to leave it at that for now. Oh, there is another fun technique. You guys go over and see Wendy, and then come back and see what I've done here at the end, okay? Because we want to see. As soon as I finish up here, I'm going to go to her channel too, okay? So we just take a little bit of this gray color, and then I'm just going to kind of make a little C shape and a backward C, and make these fun little circles around. Kind of like little bubbles. Just something fun to add interest. This one I'm going to have it kind of coming off of the page because it looks funny if they're all just in a line. You can do some that have more white. In fact, maybe basically just white. Just something kind of fun. Just gives your background a little bit more interest. There we go. There you have it. Okay, you guys. I'm going to finish up. I'll probably just do line work myself, and then I'll take a picture of when it's done. Thanks so much for joining me today, you guys. It's been fun. And go over on Facebook and check out the Take 5 group, as well as all the presenters that have their links down here today. So, thanks very much. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I like to end thing by. But, oh, I got myself in there. I got two me's. Bye, you guys.